Hey Justin, I was wondering something. Do you have a CPRO 240 with you? Jake, I found the CPRO 240. It was under the couch downstairs. Justin, where is my CPRO 248 anyway? I can't find it. Did you move it?
What do you mean? I did not lost it, I'm pretty sure of it.
And plus it is not my fault. Did you lost your CPRO 240? That thing cost over $240. You know what, Justin, my CPRO 240 cost way more than your house. Alright, crybaby, don't get mad just because you lost a thing that cost $240. I am not a crybaby, Justin. I know way more stuff than you, and just because you have a nicer house than me doesn't mean I don't have more earnings than you. Like asking me for money, buddy? Stop trying to say you have more earnings than me. You live in a hotel, Jake. Justin. I'm leaving. I don't care, Justin. I really want you to please stop bothering me. Hi. My name is Justin. And today we are going to talk about New Brunswick, one of the territories, or provinces in Canada. New Brunswick is one of the 13 provinces and territories of Canada. It is one of the 3 maritime provinces and one of the 4 Atlantic provinces. It is the only province with both French and English. New Brunswick passed the Official Languages Act in 1969, which began recognizing French as an official language, along with English. New Brunswickers have the right to receive provincial government services in the official language of their choice. About 2/3 of the population are Anglophone and 1/3 are Francophone. New Brunswick is home to most of the cultural region of Acadia and most Acadians. New Brunswick's variety of French is called Acadian French, and 7 regional accents can be found.
A normal city. From the mid-1900s onwards, New Brunswick was one of the poorest regions of Canada, a fact eventually mitigated by transfer payments. However, the province has seen the highest eastward migration in 45 years in both rural and urban areas, as people living in Ontario and other parts of Canada migrate to.
As of 2002, the provincial GDP was derived as follows: services, about half being government services and public administration 43%, construction, manufacturing, and utilities 24%, real estate rental 12%, wholesale and retail 11%, agriculture, forestry, fishing, hunting, mining, oil and gas extraction 5%, transportation and warehousing 5%. 13. A powerful corporate concentration of large companies in New Brunswick, including most newspapers, are owned by the Irving Group of companies. Documented European visits were by Jacques Cartier in 1534. In 1604, a party including Samuel de Champlain visited the mouth of the St. John River on the eponymous lines. 26. The first half of the 1800s saw large-scale immigration from Ireland and Scotland, with the population reaching 252,047 by 1861.
The notion of unifying the separate colonies of British North America was discussed increasingly in the 1860s. Many felt the American Civil War to be the result of
New
weak
Brunswick
central
is
government and
considered
wished
the
to
oldest
avoid such violence and chaos. 28. The 1864 Charlottetown Conference was intended to discuss a maritime union, but concerns over possible conquest by the Americans, coupled with a belief
The 1800s saw an age of prosperity based on wood export and shipbuilding, which was bolstered by the Canadian-American Reciprocity Treaty of 1854 and demand from the American Civil War. St. Martin's became the third most productive shipbuilding town in the Maritimes and produced over 500 vessels. In 1848, responsible home granted over government was granted, and the 1850s saw the emergence of political parties largely organized along religious and ethnic lines. The first half of the 1800s saw large-scale immigration from Ireland and Scotland, with the population reaching 257,042 by 1861. The 1800s saw an age of prosperity based on wood export and shipbuilding, which was bolstered by the Canadian-American Reciprocity Treaty of 1854 and demand from the American Civil War. St. Martin's became the third most productive shipbuilding town in the Maritimes and produced over 500 vessels. In 1848, responsible home government was granted, and the 1850s saw the emergence of political parties largely organized along religious and ethnic lines. The first half of the 1800s saw large-scale immigration from Ireland and Scotland, with the population reaching 252,047 by 1861. The notion of unifying the separate colonies of British North America was discussed increasingly in the 1860s. Many felt the American Civil War to be the result of weak central government and wished to avoid such violence and chaos. The 1864 Charlottetown Conference was intended to discuss a maritime union, but concerns over possible conquest by the Americans, coupled with a belief that Britain was unwilling to defend its colonies against an American attack, led to a request from the province of Canada, now Ontario and Quebec, to expand the meeting's scope. In 1866 the United States cancelled the Reciprocity Treaty, leading to loss of trade with New England and prompting a desire to build trade within British North America, and Fenian raids increased support for union. On July 1, 1867, New Brunswick entered the Canadian Confederation along with Nova Scotia and the province of Canada. Confederation brought into existence the Intercolonial Railway in 1872, a consolidation of the existing Nova Scotia Railway, European, and North American Railway, and Grand Trunk Railway. In 1879 John A. Macdonald's Conservatives enacted the national policy which called for high tariffs and opposed free trade, disrupting the trading relationship between the Maritimes and New England. The economic situation was worsened by the decline of the wooden shipbuilding industry. The railways and tariffs did foster the growth of new industries in the province such as textile manufacturing, iron mills, and sugar refineries, many of which eventually failed to compete with better capitalized industry in central Canada. In 1937 New Brunswick had the highest infant mortality and illiteracy rates in Canada. At the end of the Great After Canada joined World War II, 14 NB Army units were organized, in addition to the Royal New Brunswick Regiment, and first deployed in the Italian campaign in 1943. After the Normandy landings they redeployed to northwestern Europe, along with the North Shore Regiment. The British Commonwealth Air Training Plan, a training program for Allied pilots, established bases in Moncton, Chatham, and Penfield Ridge, as well as a military typing school in St. John. While relatively unindustrialized before the war, New Brunswick became home to 34 plants on military contracts from which the province received over $78 million. Prime Minister William Lyon Mackenzie King, who had promised no conscription, asked the provinces if they would release the government of said promise. New Brunswick voted 69.1% yes. The policy was not implemented until 1944, too late for many of the conscripts to be deployed. There were 1808 NB fatalities among the armed forces. The Acadians in northern New Brunswick had long been geographically and linguistically isolated from the more numerous English speakers to the south. The population of French origin grew dramatically after Confederation, from about 16% in 1871 to 34% in 1931. Government services were often not available in French, and the infrastructure in francophone areas was less developed than elsewhere. In 1960 Premier Louis Robichaud embarked on the New Brunswick Equal Opportunity Program, in which education, rural road maintenance, and health care fell under the sole jurisdiction of a provincial government that insisted on equal coverage throughout the province, rather than the former county-based system. In 1969 the Robichaud government adopted the Official Languages Act, making the province officially bilingual and establishing the right of New Brunswickers to obtain provincial government services in the official language of their choice. In 1982, at the request of the government of Richard Hatfield, this right became part of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and therefore part of the Constitution of Canada. Most of New Brunswick is forested with secondary forest or tertiary forest. At the start of European settlement, the Maritimes were covered from coast to coast by a forest of mature trees, giants by today's standards. Today less than 1% of old-growth Acadian forest remains, 39, and the Worldwide Fund for Nature lists the Acadian forest as endangered. 40. Following the frequent large-scale disturbances caused by settlement and timber harvesting, the Acadian forest is not growing back as it was, but is subject to borealization. This means that exposure-resistant species that are well adapted to the frequent large-scale disturbances common in the boreal forest are increasingly abundant. These include jack pine, balsam fir, black spruce, white birch, and poplar. Forest ecosystems support large carnivores such as the bobcat, Canada lynx, and black bear, and the large herbivores moose and white-tailed deer. Fiddlehead greens are harvested from the ostrich fern which grows on riverbanks.
Brunswick, the third least populous at 747,101 in 2016. The Atlantic provinces also have higher rural populations. New Brunswick was largely rural until 1951, since then, the rural-urban split has been roughly even. Population density in the Maritimes is above average among Canadian provinces, which reflects their small size and the fact that they do not possess large, unpopulated hinterlands, as do the other 7 provinces and free territories. New Brunswick's 107 municipalities cover 8.6% of the province's land mass but are home to 65.3% of its population. The 3 major urban areas are in the south of the province and are Greater Moncton, population 126,424, Greater St. John, population 122,389, and Greater Fredericton, population 85,688.
In the 2001 census, the most commonly reported ethnicities were British 40%, French Canadian and Acadian 31%, Irish 18%, other European 7%, First Nations 3%, Asian Canadian 2%. Each person could choose more than one ethnicity. According to the Canadian Constitution, both English and French are the official languages of New Brunswick, making it the only officially bilingual province. Government and public services are available in both English and French. For education, English language and French language systems serve the 2 linguistic communities at all levels. Anglophone New Brunswickers make up roughly 2/3 of the population, while about 1/3 are Francophone. Recently there has been growth in the numbers of people reporting themselves as bilingual, with 34% reporting that they speak both English and French. This reflects a trend across Canada. Public education. Elementary and secondary education in the province is administered by the Provincial Department of Education and Early Childhood Development. New Brunswick has a parallel system of Anglophone and Francophone public schools. In the Anglophone system, approximately 27% of the students are enrolled in a French immersion programs. 61. The province also operates 5 public post-secondary institutions, including 4 public universities and 1 college. 4 public universities operate campuses in New Brunswick, including the oldest English-language university in the country, the University of New Brunswick. Other English-language public universities include Mount Allison University and St. Thomas University. Université de Moncton is the province's only French-language university. All 4 universities offer undergraduate and postgraduate education. Additionally, the Université de Moncton and the University of New Brunswick also provide professional programs. Public colleges in the province are managed as a part of the New Brunswick Community College (NBCC) system, except for the New Brunswick College of Craft Amp Design, 62, which has operated through the Department of Post-Secondary Education, Training and Labor since 1938. In addition to public institutions, the province is also home to several private vocational schools, such as the Moncton Flight College, and universities, the largest being Crandall University. Power is divided between federal and provincial governments. Among areas under federal jurisdiction are citizenship, foreign affairs, national defense, fisheries, criminal law, indigenous policies, and many others. Provincial jurisdiction covers public lands, health, education, and local government, among other things. Jurisdiction is shared for immigration, pensions, agriculture, and welfare. 63. The parliamentary system of government is modelled on the British Westminster system. 49 representatives, nearly always members of political parties, are elected to the Legislative Assembly of New Brunswick. The head of government is the Premier of New Brunswick, normally the leader of the party or coalition with the most seats in the Legislative Assembly. Governance is handled by the Executive Council, Cabinet, with about 32 ministries. 64. Ceremonial duties of the monarchy in New Brunswick are mostly carried out by the Lieutenant Governor of New Brunswick. Under amendments to the Province's Legislative Assembly Act in 2007, a provincial election is held every 4 years. The two largest political parties are the New Brunswick Liberal Association and the Progressive Conservative Party of New Brunswick. Since the 2018 election, national unit, along with parishes, for registration of real estate and its taxation. Counties continue to figure into the sense of identity of many New Brunswickers. Counties are further subdivided into 152 parishes, which also lost their political significance in 1966 but are still used as census subdivisions by Statistics Canada. 92% of the land in the province, inhabited by about 35% of the population, is under provincial administration and has no local, elected representation. The 51% of the province that is Crown land is administered by the Department of Natural Resources and Energy Development. Cost of the province is administered as a Local Service District, LSD, an unincorporated unit of local governance. As of 2017, there are 237 LSDs. Services, paid for by property taxes, include a variety of services such as fire protection, solid waste management, street lighting, and dog regulation. LSDs may elect advisory committees 67, and work with the Department of Local Government to recommend how to spend locally collected taxes. In 2006 there were 3 rural communities. This is a relatively new type of entity. To be created, it requires a population of 3,000 and a tax base of $200 million. 68. In 2006 there were 101 municipalities. In 2015, New Brunswick had the most poorly performing economy of any Canadian province, with a per capita income of $28,000. 70. The government has historically run at a large deficit. With about half of the population being rural, it is expensive for the government to provide education and health services, which account for 60% of government expenditure. 36% of the provincial budget is covered by federal cash transfers. 71. The government has frequently attempted to create employment through subsidies, which has often failed to generate long-term economic prosperity and has resulted in bad debt. 71, examples of which include Bricklin, Atcon, 72, and the Marriott Call Centre in Fredericton. According to a 2014 study by the Atlantic Institute for Market Studies, the large public debt is a very serious problem. Government revenues are shrinking because of a decline in federal transfer payments. Though expenditures are down, through government pension reform and a reduction in the number of public employees, they have increased relative to GDP, 74, necessitating further measures to reduce debt in the future. In the 2014-15 fiscal year, provincial debt reached $12.2 billion or 37.7% of nominal GDP, an increase over the $10.1 billion recorded in 2011-12. 74. The debt-to-GDP ratio is projected to fall to 36.7% in 2019-20. New Brunswick is home to a number of individuals that work as musicians, in the performing arts, and/or the visual arts. Music of New Brunswick includes artists such as Henry Burr, Rock Voisine, Lenny Breau, and Edith Butler. Symphony New Brunswick, based in St. John, tours extensively in the province. Symphony New Brunswick, based in St. John and the Atlantic Ballet Theatre of Canada, based in Moncton, tours nationally and internationally. Theatre New Brunswick, based in Fredericton, tours plays around the province. Canadian playwright Norm Foster saw his early works premiere with Theatre New Brunswick. Other live theatre troupes include the Théâtre Populaire d'Acadie in Caraquet, and Live Bait Theatre in Sackville. The refurbished Imperial and Capitol Theatres are found in St. John and Moncton, respectively, the more modern playhouses in Fredericton.